Hi, my name is Isabella Tan, and I'm your host for this episode of the College and Career Readiness Podcast. Today, we're joined with our special guest, Jana Haynes, Communication and Media Officer for Sacramento County. Before we start our interview, remember to take control of your future by joining the California Army National Guard. Learn to serve your community during local and state emergencies by learning marketable skills, earning a paycheck, and getting money for school. Contact Sergeant Aquino today at 916-233-7615. So hi, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. So I'm just going to ask you a couple questions about your job and just like what an average day at work looks like for you in case some of our viewers are interested. So could you just tell me like what a day-to-day, like average day looks like for you?
Yeah, as a communications officer for the county, I am responsible for all the communications efforts for the departments that I've been assigned, which for me is the Bradshaw Animal Shelter. I also do the Department of Human Assistance, which is CalFresh, Veterans Affairs, and I also handle all of the communication efforts for our homeless initiatives. Probably the most exciting of those is the Bradshaw Animal Shelter. So I handle all of their social media and traditional media. So I take animals on the TV, on news to try to get them adopted. We run a Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram account. They basically pay me to go take videos of animals being cute and hopefully get them adopted. So it's pretty much the best job ever.
Yeah, that's super awesome. What was your inspiration behind this? Do you have like a background with animals or?
I don't. When I came to the county, it was basically whatever they were going to give me. And the fact that they gave me the animal shelter was awesome because they could have given me voter registration or something that wasn't as exciting. I love animals, and I'm really comfortable around animals. You wouldn't be able to do the job if you weren't because you interact with a lot of different animals that you don't know anything about. So you have to hope that they're friendly, that they're not sick. And you have to really be able to bring out their personality. Otherwise, if you just show a picture of an animal or an animal not doing anything, people aren't going to want to adopt it. So you have to be able to interact and bring out the animal's personality.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. So what approach did you take to like kind of obtain this position? Like, can you tell me a little bit of background on your timeline, your career timeline?
I was a communication major in college. I went to Sacramento State. I was a public relations focus. I had no idea what I wanted to do going into college, and totally candidly, it was the least amount of math and science that I was going to need to graduate from college, and that's kind of what took me to a communications major. I wasn't a great student, but towards the end of my career at college, I realized that I was going to have to do something. Otherwise, I was going to graduate and have nowhere to go. So I started an internship my last year of college. I worked at a radio station. I did promotions work for them. It was a really fun job. The hours were horrible. I worked until midnight while I was working a regular job and going to school, but they hired me after I graduated for a part-time position, so I worked there doing promotions work for them. That was before social media, so we didn't do social media. I learned how to work in radio. I learned how to run a promotions team. I hired interns. I managed other staff, and those were skills that I was eventually able to use to move on to my next position, which was also a promotions position at a radio station, but it was a higher position. I was over multiple radio stations. After that, I decided that I wanted to actually use my degree in public relations, and I went to a public relations firm, and I handled campaigns for companies that wanted to talk to the public about something. I did work for the Department of Motor Vehicles, which wasn't super exciting, but it taught me a lot about putting together my skills, working with a team. I managed staff, and eventually I ended up at the county.
All right, so could you tell me a little bit about your career approach and how you came to this career?
So I was a communication major at Sac State. I focused on public relations. I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, but I knew I hated math and science, so communications was the route that I went. Turns out that communicating is my strong point, and my first job out of college was the internship that I did my senior year at a radio station. I worked in the promotions department. I ended up staying in the promotions field for several years, and then I moved on to a public relations firm where I learned about management, budgeting, running programs. I did a lot of writing there. I really honed my writing skills. Eventually, I became a communications and media officer at Sacramento County. I've been there for a couple years, and every job that I took gave me a different type of skill within my field. So I really encourage people when they're young to explore a variety of options that can work on different parts of their, their degree and their skills. So now every day I can use my management skills, I can use my communication skills, I can use my social media skills, and I use that term lightly, but social media is so dynamic now, it's really hard to keep up with it, but I do the best that I can. And, the public relations thing ended up really working out for me, which I couldn't have known, 15 years ago, but I know now that, I enjoy it, and I think I've learned to love it. But at least with my communications degree, which is kind of open, I could have gone any route that I wanted to. But as I went from job to job within my field, I honed in on what I really like to do, which for me is media relations. And it's turned out to be social media and traditional media, whether that's TV, radio, or online.
That's super awesome. Could you tell me a little bit about like any obstacles that you might have faced or like trials that came with your journey?
Yeah, there's been plenty. My very first radio job out of college, I worked there for 3 years, and then the economy kind of crashed and I got laid off. And I was unemployed for 3 months. It was the worst 3 months of my life. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know, how do I explain this gap in my employment on my resume? Finding a job was really difficult at the time. I didn't know if I wanted to stay in the same career, if I wanted to do something else. Should I go back to school and get a different degree? And I ended up staying in the same field, and I'm glad I did. It would have been hard to change, but I maintained my persistence. I applied, I interviewed, I got turned down, and it was really important to saturate the market with my resume because, putting in 100 applications, I still only got one job. And had I not done that, I probably wouldn't have got that job. So just being really persistent paid off for me, and being really personable. I cannot, say enough how important it is to be able to communicate with people. Being really smart only gets you so far if you can't express how smart you are and talk to people and explain things to people. Doing social extracurricular activities are really important, joining clubs. Once you get into a field, there's a lot of industry organizations that exist to help you network yourself, and you never know what person you will meet that'll eventually end up employing you or hooking you up with somebody who's going to employ you. And so marketing yourself becomes really, really important.
Yeah, that's super awesome. Just touching on that a little bit, do you have any advice for somebody that might be going through any of the same trials that you did?
Don't be afraid to work for free. I worked for free my whole senior year of college while I held down a regular job plus going to school. I didn't sleep, I think, for a full year, but it was worth it because at the time, having that internship on my resume is what put me over the top, getting those skills. And eventually they paid me to do what I had been doing for free, but they wouldn't have if I hadn't worked for free. So it's really important to volunteer. It's important to have extracurricular activities, and it's important to learn as many skills as you can when you can. There's a lot of resources available here at this high school to take advantage of. And, find somebody that works in an industry that you want to go into and learn from them. Talk to them about the pros and cons of that industry. Talk to them about what is good and what is bad, and to try to hone in, because the sooner you know what you want to do, the less time you're going to waste. I wasted a lot of time in school, in life, just trying to figure out what I wanted to do, and it ended up working out. But for a lot of people, that wasted time might be the difference between landing in a career that they love and landing in a career that just pays them.
Mm-hmm. So what has motivated you to get to this point where you are right now in life?
I'm really competitive. It's important to me to succeed, not necessarily to be better than everybody else, but to be the best that I can be. I'm really competitive with myself. And so I want to do better than I used to. I want to make more money than I used to. I want to accomplish things that I wasn't accomplishing before. And so that's kind of what pushes me to go above and beyond the requirement. I work for the government, and people think that if you work for the government, it's okay to be lazy, and that's not true. You can get by that way, but you won't get promoted, you won't get recognized. And so I always want to promote to the next level. And so I try to bring skills that aren't there if they weren't going to promote me. And so far that's worked out, with the animal shelter in particular. We are adopting out more animals than we used to. We're doing a lot more on social media. We're doing a lot more in the regular media, and it's paid off.
Mm-hmm. And just touching on that a little bit, do you feel like there's room in your career for improvement? Do you think that you could be promoted further or anything like that?
There's always room for improvement, particularly in a field that deals with social media. There are new platforms. There are new things to consider. On Facebook, they're always changing the way that you see content and how it feeds into you. And so you have to adapt to what you're doing. Now we can't talk about sharing this and sharing that because it'll lower your score, and so more people won't see your content. There are new platforms that I don't know how to use because I don't have time to learn how to use them. We always have to take into consideration our audience. Not all social platforms reach the audience that we need to reach. We have kind of a specific target audience, and we have to take that into consideration and make the kind of content that they want to see on the platforms that they're going to see it. And so there's always stuff to learn, always stuff to do. I take video all day long, and I have really, really low video editing skills. So I am constantly trying to teach myself how to use things. I consume social media content from other organizations that do the same thing that I do to try to get ideas. And so there's always more to learn, more to do. And eventually I'll probably reach the top of my promotional opportunities at this job. And then I'll have to decide if I'm okay staying there, if I want to move on to a different company that I can promote more. At some point I'll just run out of time in life to add more onto what I'm doing. I still have a life outside of work as well.
Yeah, that's super awesome. And just on another note, I heard a little bit about the internship opportunities that you guys have. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we have a couple different opportunities for skill building and for community. I know you guys need to do volunteer hours. At the animal shelter in particular, we have a teenage volunteer program that you can get community hours for. You can come interact with the animals, learn about animal education, how to humanely work with animals, how to be a responsible pet owner, how to get animals adopted, how to care for animals, how to train animals. So anybody that's an animal lover, that's a really good option for them. I personally always need help with social media content. Everybody now has a phone. A lot of people have video equipment that they can come and shoot videos, and I would be happy to take kids around, teach them how to work at the shelter, and then use their content on our social media. That's a really good resume builder because not only are you getting volunteer hours, but you're getting content that you can use for your portfolio or for your resume. And anybody that wants to go into any field that has anything to do with video, social media, production is a really good opportunity to have some real life content to use, show how it helped in the community, getting animals adopted or building the education of the public about what we do. And you also can play with cute animals, which is my favorite part of the day.
Yeah, that's super cool. Well, I just have one more question for you, and it's my favorite question, but what is your favorite part about your job?
The animals, for sure. I sit and take videos of animals. I play with them. I interact with them. I try not to take them all home, but the most satisfying part is seeing how a video that I created directly led to the adoption of an animal. And that happens a lot. More animals get adopted that we did videos on than any other animal. It's because people see how their personality is, how they interact, that they're really friendly, they learn about them. And so we have like a 95% success rating of the animals that we do videos on or take on a media outlet like the news that get adopted. And that's like the most satisfying part for me.
That's super awesome. So if anybody was interested in, your guys' internship program, how would somebody contact you?
So they can email me. My email is HAYNESJA. It's HaynesJA at saccounty.net, or they can text or call me on my cell phone at 916-661-1950.
Okay, cool. Well, that's all the questions I have today, so thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.